Today I'm going to be setting up one of my old boards for my friend so he can get into skating. Today I'm going to be setting up this 8 Baker board for my friend, that way he can get into skating, because no point buying a board and then not liking the sport. So definitely going to be setting this up for him today. Some random wheels for him, just whatever, just have to make sure they're the right size so they're all going to fit perfectly well. Bushings, we got the trucks here. These are just traffic trucks in the black colorway, already used, but then again, no point getting new stuff and then not liking the sport. Over here we just have all the bearings, so these are just the steel shields, so hopefully last a long time. And then the rest of the hardware is just Enjoy, or I can't remember what the other brand is. So for the start, I'm just going to start by setting up the trucks, making sure they're all tight, and then we'll put them on the board, and then we'll put the wheels on last. So I guess this is also going to be a bit of a tutorial as well on how to set up a board. So first, if your trucks aren't disassembled like this, then you can skip this step. Then I'll put a time frame on the screen, so then you can skip past this part, because no point watching this part if your trucks are already assembled. So the first thing you want to do is grab your base plate like this. Kingpin should be through. If it's not, then it's pretty easy to stick it through that hole there and then make sure it sits up like that. First thing you want to do is grab this little disc. Make sure it's the big one, because there's a difference between the bottom one, which is the biggest one, and the top one, which is the smallest one. So you want to get the bottom one, the biggest one, and put it on first, just like that. Most bushings are the same shape, but these ones here aren't, and yours might not be either. So the top one will look like a cone, and the bottom one will look like a cylinder. So of course you put your cylinder one on the bottom, then you grab your hanger, and you line it up so that this little bit that sticks out goes into the pivot cup, and the ring goes around that bit. Then you want to take your top bushing, the one that looks like a cone, and then you put it on like that, and then you grab your other washer, small one, and that goes on the top of the cone. Then you want to grab your kingpin nut, which is the biggest nut that will be attached to your skateboard, and then put it on here and spin it a couple times with your fingers. Just spin it until you can't with your fingers. That's the best idea. And then grab your T-tool or whatever tool you have and just spin it enough that it will stay on. And then you can adjust the tightness or looseness when you go to ride, because if you tighten it too much now, you might break your bushings. Basically the same thing for the next one, so I'll probably just time lapse this. Make sure you get the right nut. I was trying to put a wheel nut on my kingpin just then, because the size difference is not that much. So make sure you're putting the right nut on your kingpin, otherwise you'll sit there for ages wondering why it's not going on. Okay, there we go. There's my trucks, nice and set up. Next we're going to put the trucks onto the board. It's pretty simple. So what you want to do is grab 2 pieces of your hardware, so like that, and put them in a cross pattern. So the first one up there, and then the next one and that one. So you have them like this, or that way. It doesn't matter what way you put them in. Just don't put them in like all 4 at a time, because it'll make it way too difficult. Then grab your truck and put it, so just line up the holes to the screws. Pretty simple. And then you can put your nut on the end of the screws and tighten it like the same with the kingpin, just with your fingers. Don't use the tool just yet. Okay, there we go. those now on, and we have it in a cross pattern like that. Just now the truck will stay on, and it will make tightening them and putting the other two in so much easier. Also, another thing that you don't want to make a mistake of is putting the kingpin on the wrong side. You want to make sure that the kingpin is facing to the inside of the board, because if the kingpin is facing to the outside, it means when you lean to the left, you actually turn right, and it will invert the way that you skate. So just make sure that the kingpin faces into the graphic. Now I'm going to do the same for the next truck, and I'm going to time lapse that as well, because you just saw me put this one on. Now that's how your trucks are on nice, and then I'll show you how to tighten them. Okay, so now this is going to be how to put the other screws in, and then I'll tighten them up, and then I'll show you putting the wheels on. Now we're just going to tighten them up so that the trucks grab ready. Pretty simple. So you want to grab the smallest socket on your T-tool and line it up with the nut on the bottom of your deck, and then most T-tools come with an Allen key or a Phillips head. So my hardware on this board is Allen key, or if it's Phillips, you can just change it to the other side. So pretty straightforward. Line the two up, and then just keep twisting until it feels tight enough. Don't over tighten it, because you'll end up cracking the wood. You also don't want to under tighten it, because then your trucks will rattle around. Okay, now that your trucks are on, nice and sturdy and not wobbling around, we can now put the wheels on. The wheel I've already shown how to put on in a previous video and multiple shorts, but I will show you how to do it again anyway. Take one bearing and slide it onto the axle. Then take your wheel and slide that onto the top of the bearing. And now push as hard as you can, push the wheel onto the bearing until the bearing is fully seated in the wheel. Make sure to repeat that for both sides so that you have 2 bearings per wheel. And it will look like that. And now nice and simple. Then take your axle nut like this and screw it onto the end of your axle. Now you don't want to screw it on too tight like I have done here to show you, as the wheel does not actually spin unless I twist it like this, which is not good for the bearing. So you want to have it quite loose, not enough to rattle, but enough to spin. See, that's still tight. This here rattles a little bit, so it spins. This here rattles even more, but now it spins good. If you had it too loose, however, the wheels will jiggle too much, and it's not even going to make it spin good. It's just going to jiggle and your board won't sound very good. I'm going to show you how to put a wheel on one more time, and then I'm going to time lapse the rest of the board setup. Bearing onto the axle, wheel onto the bearing, push until the bearing's fully seated into the wheel. Now that the bearing's fully seated in, you can put another one in there and do the same thing. Now if you're too weak, then you can put the board onto the ground and push like this, and it makes it so much easier. See, fully seated. Put your wheel onto the axle, give it a spin to make sure that the bearing is fully seated. If the bearing's not fully seated, then the wheel will be all wonky when it spins. So do a quick check. Seems to be fine. Now I can add the axle nut, put it on like this. Remember, not too tight, not too loose. It's too tight, so we're going to loosen it a little bit. Perfect. Now I'm going to time lapse the rest of it. There we go. Now that's all done and the wheels are all set up. Now I want you to stand on your board and try and just lean side to side. If the trucks feel too loose, then you can take the biggest socket on your tool and keep tightening until it feels good. Or if they feel too tight for you, then you can twist it the opposite way and it will make it much looser. Thank you for watching this video. This is the board that I set up for Moldy Deegan, my friend, and thank you for watching.